So my favorite, I feel like is everyone's kid's favorite, is John Cena. So when I grew up, so when I was like a kid,
Jess don't like that one.
Let's go. This concludes the interview.
it's that.
You already know what it is. Resting behind the curtain. You already know I'm here. Kenny's here. Got a special guest here. The former Battle Arts Academy Women's Champion, the one and only Amy Crimson.
What's up?
He's blessed us. So before we get into it, we did lose a legend. Obviously, we all know this week. I want to give a thoughts and prayers to Scott Hall and his family and friends. So rest in peace, Scott Hall. Now, that being said, we here because of wrestling. This is what we love. This is why we're here. Make sure y'all subscribe, like, and share, and do all that good stuff. We'll be on Spotify, Apple, all that goodish. You'll get it when you get it. But, Amy, introduce yourself. Tell the people who you are and why you fell in love with wrestling.
I'm Amy Crimson. I'm the baddest chick in all of Canada, and I'm from the streets of Malton. And you guys are going to see why if you guys look at some of my videos, because I do judo and martial arts. So I'm the female walking weapon at this point. I fell in wrestling when I was 8 years old from my dad and my uncle. Watched WWE since I was 8. Knew I wanted to do wrestling since I was 8 years old. So wrestling's been a whole part of my life. Like, I'm 23 years old. So basically since 8, that's pretty a big chunk of time that wrestling's been part of my life. So known that I wanted to be a wrestler since I was 8. Started doing wrestling when I was 19. And I'm trained by former WWE superstar Santino Marella. So.
Yeah, I love Santino. So
Personal favorite of mine.
definitely. So obviously being a fan at such a young age, like I know me and Kenny are, I wanted to be a wrestler, but I waited too long. Definitely can't do it no more because I can't take the bumps at 42. Mm-hmm. It's not happening. Did you have any influences, like someone like you really looked at, or did you kind of take a little bit from everything?
So my favorite, I feel like is everyone's kid's favorite, is John Cena. So when I grew up, so when I was like a kid,
Jess don't like that one.
Let's go. This concludes the interview.
It's that. But what happened was I grew up in like kind of like the PG era. So when I started watching, it was like 2007, 2008. So it was like John Cena's peak, like he was pushed to the moon. So as a kid, I was like, well, it was John Cena and Randy Orton. So I like both of them. And when I started doing wrestling, I didn't grow up watching the Ruthless Aggression era. I started watching when it was the end of the Ruthless Aggression era. So when I started watching wrestling, I heard so much about the Ruthless Aggression era, and I watched some clips like from when I was a kid, but I didn't watch the full Ruthless Aggression era. So when I first started like wrestling and training, I went back to the Ruthless Aggression era and I saw Eddie Guerrero's work, and I was like, whoa, this guy's like amazing. Like his promo work's good, his wrestling's good. So I was like, you know what? Like, I think Eddie Guerrero is like one of my favorites. So Eddie Guerrero and John Cena and Randy Orton are basically my favorites.
You might have worked me, Kenny. Like I might be a fan. That's it. She said Eddie.
You said you hit all the right buttons. Well, Chance less so than me because his Cena hate is known on the channel. But I'm a little bit older than you, so I did grow up watching the Ruthless Aggression. So that's I got the end of Attitude Era and I got into Ruthless Aggression. So I do feel those influences. Those are people I was always watching too. So I could definitely see how Eddie could get anyone into the game. Really, you watched enough of that, so I could definitely understand how that happened.
I think during the pandemic, I think I watched all of 2004. So I think it was like Eddie Guerrero's reign as champion. I watched all of it, and I was like, "This guy's amazing."
Let's be clear. I don't hate John Cena. All right.
Okay.
It's just that people push so hard that he's the GOAT. And let's be clear, my GOAT is Shawn Michaels, which is many, especially my age. So Obviously, Sean is that dude. I don't know if you know who Sean is. You know what I mean? Since you
I
ain't
do.
watching
I do.
the Russian era, but Sean is the GOAT. But it's just like in our chat and in our podcast, whatever. Like we have a guy JJ, and he's just so Cena crazy
Yeah. Yeah.
that it just like I don't know if you get this thing to where sometimes people tell you like carrots, 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 carrots. Like I don't like fucking carrots. Like that's it. Like it's over. So he pushed Cena on so hard. I get what John Cena did. Like he had an amazing run. Obviously, like when the GOATs left, like he clearly like took it for what 10, 12, 13 years. So I get it. Obviously, the number one, what is it? Make-A-Wish Foundation.
Yeah. Oh, he crazy with it. It's by far. It's like destroyed it. Yeah.
So I get that. Great on the mic. Can't deny that. Feud with The Rock was amazing, obviously because it had real heat, but amazing. And you know, he's John Cena. Like he's an action hero now. I ain't gonna lie, but he's just he's just not my GOAT. Like he's not my guy.
Yeah.
But it's all good. What about female wrestlers? Any that way, or are you just mainly like John and Eddie?
So growing up, the women weren't really like promoted as wrestlers. So like I was more leaning towards like gruesome and like chair shots and like going through tables. So I was like more like watching the wrestlers. So like I was imagining an 8-year-old girl like saying like, hit him through a chair, hit him again with the table. Like you don't hear that. But mostly I looked up to like Lita, Trish Stratus, Victoria. So the three major and Gail Kim as well. Currently one of my favorites are Asuka, because she's trained in Japanese strong style.
Okay, I can see that. Shout out to Gail because a lot of people don't mention Gail. She's got greatness.
Yeah.
What I was gonna say. So nothing like Charlotte or because Charlotte's my girl. Like
there you go. Here you go. Here you go. Try to influence people again. No.
That's cool. That's cool. Nah. Those are goats. Like I do have this debate that Trish is good, but unpopular opinion here is some people think, I don't know if Kenny falls in this category. I forgot how you fell into the chat. Some people think that era wasn't really that great of wrestling, but since it was primarily divas and bra and panties, that they were the best at that time, but that if they were to stack up now, it wouldn't really compare to now.
But I mean, you can't really compare Trish Stratus and Lita to Charlotte and Becky Lynch because they're given like so much to run with. Lita and Trish and Gail Kim and Victoria, they didn't have that much to work with. So like they were given models, fitness models, stuff like that, like magazine models, like all those who didn't know how to wrestle. Majority of the women's roster knows how to wrestle now. So it's like it's easier to have 5-star women's matches than it was back then, like back in the day. So they're given more time and opportunities now than they were back then. So I feel like it's too hard to compare both eras because it's just two different eras.
So you say you're 23, right?
Yeah.
You have a PR?
PR?
Yeah, like public relations? Because you answered questions pretty good. Like, there's like no hole in it like whatsoever so far. What about Kenny? Can you get a question real quick?
I got a quick one. You think what about Canadian wrestlers? How much influence, because you say you're from Canada, I know so much talent coming from Canada down here, but do you think you watched a little bit more of that on the side, or was it just WWE what was coming out, the main stuff?
Majority of me growing up, I was introduced to WWE. I didn't start watching different products until I started wrestling. So like I was watching TNA, but it wasn't like, I didn't feel like it was the same as WWE. So I was just like, it's okay, but it's not WWE because it's not the guys that I'm used to watching kind of thing as a kid. I started watching more of AEW when it came out. I started watching more of Impact, Ring of Honor, stuff like that, but not as like a fan, more of like trying to research and study it for more knowledge and seeing like my competition. Kind of, it's more like a competition now compared to me enjoying it as a fan kind of thing.
That's funny because that was my follow-up question. I was gonna ask, like, how much wrestling do you watch now and how much do you like, do you let it influence like Do you like, oh, maybe I could do something like that, or maybe like, oh, I would love to wrestle that person because our styles would match? Like, how much of that do you do?
Well, when I was like a kid, I think I watched wrestling religiously, but it was only WWE. Now, I think I watch more of it now compared to when I was a kid, and that's a lot. Like, I'll watch like
Oh, we know.
hours. I'll watch hours of wrestling, but it's not as like a fan base from like, holy shit, like this was like a 5-star match. It was amazing. Obviously, majority of the matches that I watch are 5-star matches and they're good, but I'm not watching it as a fan. I'm watching it, oh, maybe I can do this. Maybe I can do this a little bit better. I'm just writing notes. Like I have my notebook and I'm just jotting down notes of what I can do in my matches and learn from it, kind of thing.
Yeah, that was a good question. Because I used to do music, but I never wanted to like listen to people when I was in the game because I didn't want to take their style and like have it like subconsciously go into mine. So I kind of stayed away from listening to music. So that was a good question to see how you do your thing. But I don't know if you saw, Kenny, when I posted in the thing, like, yeah, we do have a lot more content because now Tony wants to do Ring of Honor like weekly again. So now there's gonna be some more shit that we gotta
try to a lot to watch, but you know, we get through it. We enjoy it. And if it's not good, I enjoy making fun of it. So works.
Well, my thing is that I always think that there's more knowledge to learn. Like as a wrestler, you don't know everything and there's always something you can learn. So the fact that we have all this like opportunity to watch so much wrestling content, because it's not just WWE anymore. There's like, I think 5 top wrestling promotions right now. So it's like, if you're like making yourself like only known to one certain promotion, like you're missing out on opportunities to learn so much. Like we have New Japan Pro Wrestling that gives like 5-star matches majority of their time, sometimes even 6-star matches. So it's like you literally have so much knowledge that you have access to Google, you have access to YouTube, Instagram, social media. If you search up wrestling, you have so many different promotions, even smaller promotions that aren't even on the map yet. To be honest, that's my thing. So that's why I'm always watching wrestling to figure out what kind of knowledge I can learn and something different kind of thing.
I definitely love that because that's definitely true. Like you definitely have so much shit. Like the more knowledge you have, like the better it is to craft your whole stuff. So I think that's dope. I know you said John Cena, Eddie Guerrero. Has it changed now since like now there's so much wrestling? Like we're saying, like, do you have someone that you look at now like, oh shit, like Kenny Omega's doing crazy shit, or Adam Cole, or who's top? Oh, my dude, Roman. Like somebody, you know, like they're doing this.
Honestly, I look at MGF. Like he is like the best heel, and he does not break kayfabe. And like he literally will look at a little kid, and a little kid will be like, "Can you sign my autograph?" And he'll look at him and be like, "No." Like it's just his character work is so amazing, and like he's one of the greats of today. Like I feel like he's gonna go and be like a major star, and he hasn't even hit his high peak yet. So it's like he is one of the people I look up to in AEW, and also Kenny Omega, because like Kenny Omega is really good as well.
That's Brandon. You know what I'm saying? We saw Spider-Man together.
Bro, this man went to the same theater as you. You're not friends. Stop saying this.
Friends, like he knew I was gonna be there, so you know.
All right. Okay. Now Kenny Omega has his number. Okay, cool.
I mean, no, I didn't want to.
It might not be too late to start taking bumps. Then, hey, just a couple.
You never know. You never know.
Honestly, we have 50-year-olds in the ring training at Battle Arts Academy.
Really?
So I mean, you could be a ref, you could be a commentator. There's still time for you.
This is what I would want to do, all right? Because I know wrestling behind the curtain is gonna get crazy. It's gonna get crazy. So I think we're gonna eventually cross over. You know what I mean? It's gonna be crazy, right? So I think we're gonna get those calls, right? To where we can make a special appearance on the show. Yeah, I'll take a bump like Bad Bunny. You know what I mean? Like I'll do what I gotta do. I'll eat it and be hurt for like 2 weeks to live my dream. Other than that, yeah, like full time, nah, I can't do it. Not full time. I barely get out of bed now. Like if I work out hard, I ain't getting out. So yeah. Did you watch TNA when it was AJ TNA or the new Impact?
So I mostly watched it when like 2008, 2009. So when they had the octagon, kind of like the 8 sides, not the ring, but like when they had that. And then I was watching it when they were transitioning from TNA to Impact. So like that time frame. I wasn't like a religious watcher for TNA. Like I knew like the big names. I didn't know like the smaller guys kind of thing. But I did watch more WWE at that time frame.
Yeah, we're trying to get into Impact. Trust me, like we're trying. Like,
Hey, don't say we. I can watch Impact.
I can't watch because of the crowds, B. I'm telling you.
You gotta stop. You gotta stop this agenda.
No, I can't.
You gotta.
Yo, I've been
stop
watching
slandering.
I've been watching the shows, and in all fairness to their credit, some people said that the artists that at the shows that the pops are crazy, but when you're watching it on TV, it looks so dead. So like you don't get the pop, and it's just like
I have to attest to that because I was helping out at an Impact show at Don Koloff Arena in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and it was loud. Like the crowd was like loud. Sometimes it could be like maybe the arena, it's too big and there's not enough people. That could be the reason. But when I was helping out at the Impact show and like doing timekeeping, it was not quiet. It was loud from the time it started to the time it ended. Like there was just the crowd was hot. Like it wasn't quiet at all.
I hope so, because when they had Jay White appear, I felt so disrespected. I was like, you not screaming for Jay White? Like, are you bugging? He came on AEW.
Well, it could be
man into the trailer.
It could be part-time fans. They could be like part-time fans where they're not like hardcore wrestling fans where they know. Sometimes that could be.
That is true, because I do remember when the pandemic was starting and NXT first had to be able to get, when they were trying to get that crowd working, when they first started letting actual people in and not just wrestlers, I do notice that some weeks was not the same as other weeks, because it was like that first 2 weeks it was like real wrestling fans, and by 2 months in it's like people who like, okay, we want to get out the house, and this is one of the few things you're allowed to go to, so let's go watch some wrestling, I guess. So you can tell the difference between like, in those areas. So I definitely know when I went to the AEW show, when I watched it, like in the crowd, it felt electric. And then went back and watched it on TV because a lot of people were complaining about, because we were the first road show in Miami.
Yeah.
So they were like, well, this is it. And then I was like, it didn't feel like this is it. It felt great in the area.
Yeah.
And we had also been going for like already like 3 hours, because people forget about one of the live shows is it's a lot more wrestling at the live show than what you see on TV.
Yeah. Well, when it was Takeover Toronto, like the first Takeover Toronto, NXT Takeover Toronto, me and my brother, we were like screaming. It was loud. Even the Survivor Series was loud because I attended it. And then when you watch it back on the network, it's like, I don't remember this. Like it was pretty loud when I was there. So I don't know. Sometimes it could be maybe the arena, or it could be maybe the sound and editing. I don't know, but that could be the reason.
And you have a Takis hat on?
Oh yeah, I got at the Heat game last night.
Oh, so
it matches that wrestling fans are toxic merch.
Merch gang is in the box. Get the merch. But now it's in the Takis because we need to get that sponsor, because those shits are lit. Those shits are lit.
I'm working on it.
But let's get back into your story. So I know, because I did my research. So I know it's because of a certain beauty product, but if you can indulge the people how you came up with your name that haven't heard the story yet.
So it's actually a funny story. So for the longest time, I didn't have a name, and I was only training for 2 months. And at Battle Arts, the women's division was kind of low, so there wasn't that many girls. So I was like the only girl newer training at the time. So I think I was training for 2 months, and then Anthony Corelli, Santino Marella, he pulls me aside. He's like, "You think you're ready for a match?" And I'm like, I've only been wrestling for 2 months. Like, I only know the basics. And he's like, well, we have an opportunity for you. So me being like 19 years old, I'm like, okay, what's the opportunity? So he pulls me aside. And he's like, you're going to see if you're okay to go in the ring, and you're going to be at a kid's birthday party. So I'm at a kid's birthday party. He's like, do you have a name? And I'm like, no. He's like, you wanted to be a wrestler since you're 8 years old and you don't have a name picked out. And I'm like, I didn't know. Like, I thought it was given to me. I thought like something just magically happens. So he's like, okay, whatever. So he's like, as I'm going out, I don't know what name he's going to give me. So it just comes off the top of his head. He just says, Amy so-and-so. It's like a white baby face name. It's just like the most generic white name, or whatever you could think of. So then the crowd loves me. I do it, whatever. The kids love me. So then he's like, okay, so you're going to be on our take of the Summer Sizzle. So it's our take on SummerSlam, but it's called Summer Sizzle. Right. So I was put in a tag match, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to stick with Amy. But then Bianca Corelli, his daughter, was announcing at the time. She didn't have a match. I think she was injured or something. I don't remember. It was so long ago. She comes in. She's like, okay, Cassandra, you need a last name. I was like, hold up. I just got the first name. Now I need a last name. Like, I don't know this. Like, I'm just like, can't just the first name be good enough? And she was just like, no, like, you need a last name. So I'm putting on crimson lipstick. And she's like, Amy Crimson. I'm like, wait a second. That works. Like, that's good. And like, for the longest time, my character did not match the name. It was like, I went from like, baby face to like a heel, and then to the heel I was like kind of like the psychotic character, but like I felt like that I was like pretending to be something I'm not, and I didn't feel it didn't come natural. Like I felt like I was just it wasn't good. So then in Malton, Mississauga, we have Toronto slang. So we have bless us, fam, and like fresh as and stuff like that. So we have like all that stuff.
Boy, season 2.
So we have all our slang. And Santina Morella, I was talking to my friend because she lives in Malton as well. And we were just talking like normal, like how we would talk. And then he's like, wait a second. He's like, speak. And I was just like, okay. And I was talking. He's like, wait, hold up. You're straight up gangster. Like, there's something interesting about you. And I was just like, what do you mean? I'm like, I grew up in Malta, Mississauga. I'm a privileged white girl. Like, I drink Starbucks every day. Like, what do you mean? And then he's just like, no, you're straight up gangster. Like, you're going to be like a hood ass character, and you're just going to go out, have braids, your box braids, and a bandana. So I'm like, whatever. Like, this is going to be the stupidest gimmick of life. Like, no one's going to believe that it's real or anything. I go out the next night and I have box braids and I have my bandana. I cut a promo and I'm heel. And people start cheering for me. And I'm like, okay. Like, he's like, well, that was the best promo. I'm like, because it came naturally. Like, I'm not like a psychotic character. This is how I speak. Like, this is just how I am. This is like my mechanism. And then he's just like, okay. And then I won the Battle Arts Women's title with that gimmick. And it's not really a gimmick. It's just me amped up, I guess, to 110. Like, it's not me naturally, but it's just like me, like, turned up 110%. So then it just came natural, and now I'm here with my hat backwards.
I like it actually. How did you and Santino come about? Is it because of the academy or?
So funny story. So I met him way before I started training there. So I believe I was 12 or 13. I just started high school. I was in grade 9, and he actually grew up in Mississauga, Ontario, Canada. So he went to high school in Mississauga and everything, and he knew a couple of people that were from Mississauga. So some of the people that he knew went to my old elementary school. So I was going to a carnival, a school carnival, and they said, oh, Santina Morella is going to be there. So me being a huge WWE fan, I'm like, holy shit, like I gotta go talk to Santino. I'm gonna tell him I want to be a wrestler. So I go, I meet him, and I'm like, hey, Setiro, like, I want to be a wrestler. He looks at me, and I'm like 5 feet. At that point, I was 4'9". Like, I think I was like maybe 100 pounds. Like, I look like a stick. And he's like, first off, kid, you got to gain muscle. Like, how are you going to be a wrestler when you look like a stick? And then second, he's like, how old are you? I'm like, I'm 12. And he's just like, yeah, when you turn 16 or 18, then we can talk, right? So he's like, go to a wrestling school, and then do that. I turned 16, and then instead of a sweet 16 party like usual girls would want, my mom was like, oh, you can either have a sweet 16 party or you can go to the live event in Toronto for wrestling. I'm like, yo, send the tickets for the wrestling event, because I haven't no sweet 16 because I loved wrestling so much. So I go to the wrestling event, and that was the time that he was retiring. So he did his retirement speech, and I was there, and I was like front row. And then he told me, he's like, oh, when you turn like 18, like you should go to wrestling school. I turned 18. I researched that there's Battle Arts Academy. So happens, Anthony Corelli, Santina Morella owns that school, and it's like 15 minutes away from my house. I'm like, wow, this is like adding up all together. I'm like perfect. 15 minutes away from my house. I can be here 7 days a week. I don't got to travel. Like, this is, I can take a bus. Like, this is blessed. So I go, and then I see him, and I'm like telling him, like, and he makes jokes that I'm like his little prodigy, because like I met him when I was like 12, and then like when I was 14. So then I go, and then I'm wearing a John Cena t-shirt. as I go there. And at this point, I see all the wrestlers and they're not wearing wrestling t-shirts, so I don't want to look like a mark. So I go and I buy a t-shirt that's on the rack. Mind you, this is the first time I'm seeing Anthony at Battle Arts Academy. So me being one, a shy kid, two, I'm 19 years old, and three, like the biggest WWE fan of life, because I grew up watching Anthony. I'm just like, I grab my shirt and I go to pay, and Anthony's there. And then I'm just quiet and I'm just staring at him. And he's just like, this is a nice shirt. And I'm like, uh-huh. He's like, is it cotton? And I'm like, uh-huh. And then like what happened was he's like, you're quiet. You don't speak that much, huh? And I'm like, uh-huh. And then like I paid. And then I didn't know that he was going to be training. So then when I went there, like I think 2 hours after, Yuki, former trainer that trained Asuka, and he went back to Japan. He's like, oh, this is your new wrestling student. And then he's like, oh, the quiet one, the one that doesn't speak. And I was just like, oh no. I was like, that's such a bad start. But then after he called me, so now he calls me Molten. So we're on better terms now.
It's dope that everything aligned like that. Like sometimes you know when it's supposed to be. Like shit just happens like that. So starting off, what was like your thing to where you were like, this is the scariest part? Like some people love promos, some people love the in-ring shit, some people love other things. Like what was your thing was like, oh, I could do this, and then your thing, the other thing was like, yo, I do not want to do that.
So when I first started, I didn't know you were supposed to do a fitness like evaluation test. So when I first started, I was 5 feet and I looked like a freaking meatball. Like I'm talking, I looked like a ball. Okay. So 5 feet and let's just say thick. Let's just say that. So I didn't do any exercise. I thought like, oh, like I want to be a wrestler. Cool. I could just step in the ring and be like, I'm going to be a wrestler. That's not the case. So I went in. He told me to do 300 squats. He told me to do 50 push-ups. And then he told me to run the ropes. I didn't have any shoes. So I had to run the ropes for 3 minutes straight, back and forth. He looked at me and he's like, and I'm dying. Like at this point, I'm like,
oh, I'm sure.
Like, I'm dying. Yeah. And he looks at me, he's like, you sure you want to like do it another day? Like when you're more prepared? I'm like, no. I'm like, I've been wanting to do this since I was 8. I ain't leaving. So then the time comes after the fitness evaluation and he's like, so after a hard like thing, like I love the dedication, you never quit or whatever, even though I was dying and huffing and puffing. And he's like, if you make a promise, like you can like stay as long as you work on it. So the hardest part in the beginning wasn't like the wrestling stuff, because like I kind of had an idea of what I was getting myself into. It was just the fitness aspect I didn't know, because I went in there blindly, not knowing that you have to work on your agility, your cardio, your strength training. So the next day he sees me, I'm doing supersets with the barbells, and he starts laughing. I'm just doing supersets because like it was just like it's too much. And then now I'm like in ring, like for the cardio and stuff, I'm like better. But working on that is the hardest thing, because your diet, your nutrition, everything. Like the wrestling, you can learn. The promos, you can learn. The character work, it can be given to you. But the fitness aspect and like the heart for it and the dedication with the nutrition and stuff and making sure your body looks A1, that's the hardest part.
Well, you know, this might be a little clickbait, but are the promos WWE or AEW?
Both.
Oh, yeah. Look at sitting on the fence. Nah, you got it.
Good answer. Okay. So what are your like? Can you do like a 5 years? Like, where do you like see
your next steps? Yeah. Is what you're trying to say, right?
Yeah.
Okay, my next steps will hopefully get signed to a major promotion. That's the goal. I'm currently in a competition with Jack Rougeau's Wrestling Academy 2022. So it's like a huge competition for all Canadian talent, where we have a chance to win $5,000 and go train for 3 months with a 3-month scholarship with QT Marshall at the Nightmare Factory. So hopefully in that 5-year range, I can win the competition, go on to trade at the Nightmare Factory, get a tryout at AEW at least, get signed by AEW, get like a major promotion to get signed, make money, and then travel the world. So like do shows in the States, possibly get a WWE tryout, get signed. Basically, like make a name for myself within the 5 years. Make myself a household name as an indie star.
Okay, you gotta watch AEW Dark.
Hey, see, give Chance a reason, because I watch as much wrestling as possible. Sickening on my, if not just wrestling, actually wrestling and sports. I don't know how to do anything else. I don't know how to have a regular job because I spend countless hours. So Chance don't really like the dark stuff because he's like, oh, I don't need to watch it. But that's where you find the real gems, and you can find yourself there.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, a lot of traveling. You gotta do what you gotta do.
Let's be clear, because future interviews might come from AEW Dark. So I don't not like the product. I just have so much shit that I'm doing. First of all, I got 3 kids, so I'm already doing gymnastics. I'm all over the place. That. Second of all, I'm always editing, doing stuff for the podcast. Me and Kenny, we have Geeked Out, which talk Marvel, DC. Then we have this. Then we have Talking Shop too, where we shoot shit like a barbershop. So there's just so much CEO things that I'm doing. And we just added Impact to the viewing. So it's kind of like, I'm watching AEW, I'm watching Impact. I'm trying to stay with Raw and SmackDown, only for Roman, but I'm trying to stay there to watch it. And now you guys want to give me Dark too? Like, now we got Ring of Honor. So we got to throw this in it.
And I'm over there watching New Japan and I'm watching. Hey.
I'm just here watching and enjoying all of it.
Yeah,
just for the sake of it, for my favorite pastime.
Yeah, we don't treat it like a job. We enjoy it. It's been a thing, it's been a big part of our lives forever. Just like everything, all the other podcasts we on, that's why, that's just how the cookie crumbles for us, But it does get a lot. So when you always gotta see what's different, like what's drawing me. Like I'm not watching wrestling just be like, okay, because this is what I do, and I'm watching. Nah, New Japan got something that I like, AEW got stuff I like. WWE is barely holding on to me, but they got stuff I like. Impact got stuff I like. So that's just the way it is. But we talk about the way wrestling's changed a lot over the years. Like you could make yourself a household name just by doing like social media stuff. Yeah. Like it's not that you couldn't do that before. So
like
that's all I wanted to ask. Like how much social media stuff are you doing? Like on that aspect of trying to get your name out there.
Well,
you're on TikTok, you're on Instagram, Twitter.
On everything. As a 23-year-old, I have an advantage because I literally have like all the social media at my fingertips. But the pandemic is kind of what pushed me to get more on the social media, because at first, when I first started, I was like in ring, like I have to post my matches and all that stuff, right? So doing that was fine, but then the pandemic happened and then wrestling in Canada was done, especially in Ontario. It was done for like a good 2 years. Like now we're like steady and we're like back at it, like we're doing shows and stuff, but with our government sometimes they like to shut down, open. So it's like we don't know what we're gonna have. Like we don't know how long we get to wrestle for, so we have to make the most of it, kind of thing, until this whole pandemic just completely is over. But I decided to get on my, so I was like, okay, I've only been wrestling for 2 years, been in the business for 4 now because of the pandemic. And I'm like, I'm like a small indie wrestler in Canada that no one knows. What's something that I can keep my name out there for when I return back into the ring? So I was like, what can I do? Social media, promote myself, try to get on as many podcasts as possible. I ended up reaching out to Vince Russo and messaging, shooting him my shot and being like, hey, Vince, I'm like a wrestler from Canada. Like, would you be interested in letting me go on your podcast? Mind you, I'm like at that time, I'm 21, 22. I don't think he's going to respond. And he's like, yeah, sure. Like, you can come on my podcast. He's like, I'll give you 15 minutes to get over. I ended up getting over on Vince Russo. And after that, Jacques Rougeau ended up contacting me and saying, hey, do you want to be part of the Wrestling Academy 2022 in May? And I'm like, hell yeah. I was like, sign me up. Like, I'll transport right now. Whenever it is, let me know. So it was just like, I tried to make sure that it's funny because I ended up getting more popular than when I was wrestling full time. Wow. So now I'm going to be making my in-ring like return in April. But now there's more hype to my name when I come back because I've been working on it during the pandemic, which is better because now I'm glad that there's social media. Because without social media, I feel like I would have just disappeared.
Yeah, if the pandemic would have happened
now.
after Shawn Michaels' retirement, wrestling might be dead. Like, oof, because we ain't have it.
I don't know if you mentioned it, but what do you like doing better, face or heel?
Heel. Because I'm too nice
Everyone
in
says
person.
heel. Everyone says heel.
I'm too nice in person, and I just love. Am I allowed to swear?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh,
I love being a bitch.
Yeah.
Like I get to be a natural bitch, and I'm like I can't be mean to people in real life. So it's like flipping off fans and like flipping people's hats and ripping their signs and just saying like this is for you, fat ass. Like it motivates me. Like, and it feels better than being like kissing your babies and handshaking and like smiling all the time, because all I do is smile. So it's like just to have like that resting bitch face just one time is like it feels good, and then I get to be like someone I'm not.
I'm about to sign up for wrestling training. So talking like that just to be a heel all the time. That's some shit. Real life.
Because the performance center is like literally like 20 minutes away. So I
got CCW down here, Gangrel down here training people. So
so I thought about doing it, but come on, my back, I can't do it. But no, I like that because you like the heel because it's the opposite of who you are. Like I like heel because my family calls me Deadpool because I'm just naturally sarcastic and a dickhead. So it's just
Deadpool
to be a heel
is like my gear is based on Deadpool. My theme is actually Deadpool's theme song. So I'm a huge Marvel and DC fan as well. So
there you go.
Deadpool is like my favorite character.
So if you enjoy this, then maybe one day we can get you on the Geek Out podcast and we can talk about the shows that we talk about.
Amy Crimson is a natural geek. All I do is play video games, watch wrestling, and
every day
watch like Marvel movies and DC movies. So
all right, so we'll give you a couple of real quick ones real quick to get you out here. Finisher. How'd you come up with that?
Finisher?
What's it called?
So we were just playing around with moves in the ring, and we're just like watching YouTube videos, and we're like, oh shit, like, because they say do not try this at home, but we made a joke. We're like, we're in a ring, we could try it. Fuck you. So then we're just like, okay, whatever. So we're just like screwing around, like just like in the ring doing random moves, and then the Michinoku driver comes up, and I'm like, hey, like, this seems cool, like maybe I should try it. And it's easy, it's safe, it's like I won't hurt my opponent, I can pick up anyone because like it's not a more advanced move. So I was like, okay, so I'm starting out, it was like my first finisher, so I'm like, okay, Michinoku driver. And then I'm just fooling around in practice, and my coach was like, oh, why don't you try doing a submission finisher? So I'm like, okay. So then I decided to go into a running, catch them from behind, into kind of like the Samoa Joe's like lock kind of thing. Okay. So I was like, okay, this looks flashy, but it's not too complicated. I'm like, maybe I should like try to do that. I actually have a new move coming, but that's going to be when I return in the ring. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, those are how the submission finisher came up and the Michinoku driver. So
that's the case. Yeah, I was gonna say if that's the case, first of all, you definitely have to send us the links and all the information so we could definitely check out how that your return goes. We probably, friend of the podcast now, so we probably gonna put it out there. We might, Chance like do his clips, so we can do that too. And
make a show. Hey, we definitely want to go to shows.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, depending on how far you traveled, let us know, because especially down here in Florida, wrestling never stops. It's
if y'all want to come to Montreal in June,
Canada might have to see me. I don't know. I might have to talk to people.
Bless up. For sure. Yeah. Did you have something, Kenny, or that was what you were saying?
No, that was it.
All right, so this is my last thing, and then we'll let you get out of here. So we used to do this, me and my boy Rook, on the Chance and Rook podcast. 4 questions off the top of the dome, whatever comes to your brain. And it could be anything. It doesn't have to be wrestling related. So the first question is, if you weren't doing what you're doing, what would you be doing?
Personal training.
Okay, so all right. I mean, I see the videos. Okay, cool. We get that. Biggest influence?
Biggest influence has to be Eddie Guerrero or John Cena. Like, I know it doesn't have to be wrestling related, but wrestling's my life. So yeah.
Of course it was cool. Eddie Guerrero, bro, let's go. I like Jjthebison. Favorite curse word?
Fuck.
Everyone's.
Yeah. All right, and lastly, which is going to be good since you are a geek too, if you had any superpower, what would it be and why?
Can I just have all of them at that point?
It's no
Can I
simple.
just be invincible? Can I be like Thanos and have all the Infinity Stones?
Oh boy, that's one way to go.
On the glove.
I don't think I've ever heard that answer before. That's dope.
Yeah, because people always do flying or invincibility. But I have
Listen,
to
if
have,
I want to fly, I could just go in a plane and I'll fly that way. Flying is so boring.
I thought so too.
Super strength, I could just do a couple PRs in the gym and I'll have super strength. But having Thanos's powers,
Yeah, you ain't getting
all
that.
5 Infinity Stones,
Yeah,
you ain't getting that anywhere. You can't just work on it. That's what I want.
That is true.
Beat every girl in the ring with Thanos's powers. That's the way to go.
That's true.
feel if I ever saw one.
I like Wolverine and Deadpool though. I like the healing factor, so I know I'm not going to die. Like it takes a lot.
Oh, and then the healing. Take the healing, and then I'll never lose.
So you want the healing and the
Never. Yeah, I want everything.
Oh, Amy Crimson takes no prisoners. I see. That's
No.
what I see.
We see that.
No
So,
mercy on them fools.
anything you want to tell your fans or anything you want to plug before you go?
Yeah, where they can find you at.
They can find me, actually, if they want, they can vote for me to win the competition at lootdeacademy.ca.
We'll put in this.
Yep, they can vote. Starting in June, I'm going to be having a triple threat match. It's going to be announced very shortly, so stay tuned for that. I'm going to be having merch soon, and you guys can see me at Battle Arts Academy as well as HWE and Revolution. They're small Canadian promotions, but those are where I'm going to be making my in-ring return very soon, very shortly. And yeah, you guys can find me on Instagram, which is Amy Crimson XOXO, Twitter, which is Amy Crimson XOXO, TikTok, which is Amy Crimson XOXO, and I have a Facebook page. Yeah, it's consistency, because I know people, if you have different names, they're gonna be like, oh, this chick has different names. Like, it's not easy to find. You search up Amy Crimson, everything just pops up. I have a Facebook page. I think if anyone still uses Facebook, it's like the MSN of social media, but I have Amy Crimson page, and you guys can just search up Amy Crimson on YouTube and everything should pop up.
All right. Dope.
Well, it was a pleasure. Definitely appreciate you coming on the show. I felt like we could have kept going, but like I know people got things to do on Saturdays, so letting people go. But we definitely would love to have you back if you want to come back, either for this or Geeked Out, talk some Marvel DC shit.
Of course.
I mean, we always say we pop in.
I'm down. Honestly, I was just gonna go watch probably old wrestling anyways. Just my chill day. Today's my day off, so I'll just go watch wrestling anyway.
But definitely link us so we can check you out. Like we'd love to pop out there in Toronto.
Okay.
See what's popping out there in Montreal and all that good stuff.
You guys, yeah.
You already know it's Amy Crimson. You already know.
You already know what it is.